So as I said, you can use the search function at the top here, but I've clicked into the collections button here, and that's going to allow me to see each of the collections that are featured. Today we're going to be focusing on American history from the Gilder Lehrman Institute. Then we're going to be looking at material from everyday life and women in America, which is all material from the Sally Bingham Center at Duke and also the New York Public Library. And then we're going to finish off with some more contemporary material from our popular culture 1950 to 1975 resource. First of all, I'm actually going to run a search up in the top right hand corner here. So I'm going to run a search for, oh, there it is, women and Civil War. We'll hit go. So you'll notice when we run a search, we have 3 tabs at the top here. We have a frequency chart, which is going to show the years in which all of our documents that have been returned from this search appear. So you can really see, you know, the term women and Civil War aren't really appearing together until, 1809 is kind of really the first, and then, it really picks up here, as you can probably imagine why. And then we move through to the end of the 19th century here. Quite a few documents around that. They're usually, I imagine, pieces written about the Civil War, kind of 30, 40 years on. So we can look at that frequency chart. It's also a pie chart view as well, which is going to show, which of these individual collections the search results are from, and by century as well. So it's very much focused on the 19th century here, as we'd expect. We can also view the list as well. So this is just the basic list of all of our search results. And on the right hand side, we can see each of those collections again and how many search results. So we can see, by far American history is the dominant collection here. So I just wanted to scroll down and show you a few instances here of just some of the types of material before we get into some more specific searching. So you can see here some rare printed books from American history, and when you click into a document here, we get presented with some basic metadata. And this is just going to allow us to scan through our search results quickly whilst we're searching in the Americana platform. And if we want to go through and view that document, all we do is click View Document, and that's going to take us through to the American History platform. So let's have a look at some other results here. So we have some periodicals from everyday life. We've also got some more rare printed books on women's suffrage from American history, some personal correspondence, speeches, some autograph photographs, as well as some searches being picked up in Los Angeles Free Press, which is actually from popular culture, which we'll be looking at later. So you can see here a real mix of material. This isn't just, reports and or newspapers. There's a real mix of ephemera, photographs, social periodicals and correspondence. And Americana really allows you to kind of, aggregate all of this material together in one search result. So let's maybe run some searches for some American history material. Let's focus on that for now. So I'm going to run a search for Lucy Knox. Oh, see, my suggested searches are already coming up here, which is good. So I'm going to run a search for Lucy Knox and daily life. Quite a specific search, and that's because I wanted to show you this. So Lucy Knox was the wife of Henry Knox, who was a bookseller in Boston and was actually loyal to the Patriots before the Revolutionary War, and then later became an officer in the Continental Army. But the reason Lucy Knox is so interesting is she was actually from a very well-heeled family in Ireland, and her family were staunch loyalists, as we can actually see that in the description here. And the reason this is interesting is after the Revolutionary War happened, Um, Lucy Knox's family actually had to flee America, but she stayed loyal to Henry and defied her family, and she never actually saw them again. And so we have this sub-collection called the Henry Knox Papers, and a lot of these papers are actually correspondence, either coming into Lucy or Lucy writing out to Henry, or various military men or kind of men involved in the politics of during this revolutionary era. And this letter is actually written, I think, during a time where Henry and Lucy are apart. I think this is maybe a time when Lucy is away. So anyway, I thought we'd click in and take a look at this. She's a very important individual, and she, was very friendly with a lot of revolutionary characters, and she actively writes to them as well. So you can see this is dated Boston, August 23rd, 1777. So if you're looking for, I suppose material on, daily life and kind of local politics and, personal female voices or personal female experiences during this revolutionary era, this Lucy Knox, these Lucy Knox letters and correspondence, and sometimes like poems and short kind of, I suppose, odes really she wrote, are really interesting to look at. And her handwriting's very clear as well, which helps as well. So yeah, they're the Lucy Knox papers. The Lucy Knox correspondence in the Henry Knox papers. So we're going to move back to the Americana platform. Again, we can see all of that metadata. We just click View Document because we wanted to move through to the American History platform. But let's head back to our search results, and maybe let's run another search. So this time I'm going to run a search for Prince Albert and women. So again, this is another document from American history. And this is actually a letter from Harriet Beecher Stowe, who was the author of Uncle Tom's Cabin, as I'm sure you know. And this is actually a letter she wrote to Prince Albert about the book. So you can see here, we have the basic metadata that we can browse in the Americana platform. But once we click through to View Document, we're going to get some really detailed metadata here, particularly about the content, which for manuscript material is hopefully going to be, really, really useful. So let's click in and have a look. Again, if we need to blow any of these pages up full screen, we've got the toggle full screen. So this is just one example of a letter from Stowe. If we wanted to maybe look at some of the other material relating to her, we can click through to her name in this resource, and then that's going to search the database for all the material relating to Stowe. We can actually see the recipient here as well. So that's when we find other materials relating to Stowe, we're going to be able to see if it's correspondence, who she's writing to, or who is writing to her. We also have a people field for the metadata as well, if it's about someone, for example. And another good thing about this letter in particular, actually, a few of these letters from Stowe, is they're actually transcribed as well. So we can see that here. there we are. Really important kind of literary figure, during this Civil War, or kind of pre-Civil War era, writing to, the Prince Regent, sorry, the Prince Albert. Okay, so let's head back to the Americana platform. Let's maybe run another search. So again, we're going to keep focusing around American history. I'll run a search for Clara Barton. Okay, so 60 results. We can see a vignette photo there. We can see some letters from Clara Barton. There's actually a really good collection of her personal letters in the American History resource. So if this is an area of focus for you, American history is an absolute must. So what else we have here? So again, quite a bit of material around, I'm guessing, post kind of establishment of the American Red Cross. I imagine there's going to be a few mentions in here of that. Again, we're seeing our search, we've run a search of Clara Barton, quite a few hits here from these kind of political and social periodicals in everyday life. We'll be taking a look at that in a second. Some hits from popular culture as well. I imagine they're just kind of historical references. These are 1970s, late 1960s. Anyway, this is too broad, so what I'm going to do is actually come to the advanced search. And this is going to allow me to refine my search down a bit more. So we're going to stick with Clara Barton, so we're going to search for Clara Barton in speech marks. And we're going to run a search for Lincoln. So Clara Barton and Lincoln. And let's maybe go 1860 to 1866. So we put a date restrict on there and we'll run that search. There we go. Exactly what I was looking for. So this is a letter from Clara Barton to a friend of hers, Lon Poor, about the physical changes that she saw in Abraham Lincoln, as well as personal kind of catch up with what appears to be a friend of hers. And again, this is another letter that's transcribed, so very useful. So here we are. If we can see in the transcript here that Barton attended Mrs. Lincoln's levee. So it was a reception she attended in, and where's this? So this is 1864, so only a year before before Lincoln died. And she says here, she was looking remarkably well, but the president grows more gaunt, pale, and careworn than ever. I feel badly when I think how much 4 years have changed him. So this is really interesting. This is Barton's perspective. This is someone who, well, perhaps had very good medical knowledge and was making some observation, it seems, on Lincoln's health. So again, we can see the transcript here, but we can just click through and view the original here in the thumbnails. So if I blow this up full screen. So we can see here, but the president grows more gaunt, pale. So yeah, very interesting in kind of her perspective on Lincoln, and if we maybe move back and see what else this letter was about. As you can see, the metadata for all of these documents is really thorough, and that's to give context, and hopefully, be able to put these materials into research much quicker rather than having to, constantly research around the context. Hopefully the transcript and the metadata gives a good indication. We can see our search result appearing there. Okay, so I think that is enough of American history. As you can see, as I probably didn't mention at the start, all of this material is sourced from the Gilder-Lehrman Institute, and it really covers everything from colonial encounters and early settlements, in the 16th and 17th century, right through the colonial period, the Revolutionary era, to the Civil War, and then past the Civil War into the Second World War, and everything in between, really. So this is a vast resource, and we can just see some of the subjects here in the metadata: woman author, women's history, things like that. Are common terms in the indexing, which means that if you're looking for material on things like women in the Civil War, or women's involvement in the humanitarian aid, such as these Clara Barton letters, it's going to be really easy to find that, hopefully. Anyway, so let's jump back to our Americana platform. So this time we're going to go back to the advanced search, and we're going to run a search for, let's say, women and suffrage. This time we're going to put a proximity on it, so we're going to say within 10 words, and we're just going to look at material from everyday life, and let's run that search. Okay, so 111 hits, that's a nice amount to browse, I'd say. So for those of you that don't really know what everyday life is, so this is Everyday Life and Women in America. That's the collection I refined by. And this is all material from the Sally Bingham Center for Women's History at Duke, but also there's a bit of material here from the New York Public Library. And this is really monographs, pamphlets, periodicals, broadsides, kind of addressing 19th and early 20th century political, social, kind of gender issues, as well as things like religion, education, employment, marriage, sexuality, the home, health, popular pastimes, as well as moral guides, guides for daily life and how one should conduct themselves, and there's also kind of periodicals that focus on the rural life as well as the urban, those kind of specific zones. So really rich and large runs of very specific periodicals that you may not find anywhere else. So let's maybe scroll down and take a look at a few of these hits. So the Women's Athenaeum is one of these periodicals. So it's published in New York. It's really aimed at kind of upper middle class women, and it was really kind of focused on the kind of intellectual debate side. Really, it was really focused on philosophizing and trying to argue for certain social graces and why women should behave in particular ways from I suppose a more quote scientific way. So we can see the red box at the top here. This is where our search result is flagging up. So we can click in and see where our search results appear. So women's suffrage, we can see there. What we may find useful here, we can see the contents list there as well. And maybe we see a particular article that looks useful to us. We can then use go to, and let's say the ethical quality of dress. So page 24. So because this is page 5, I imagine it's going to be about here. Oh, a bit far. Double page, so we'll go back to page 12. In between. So there we are. And these periodicals really cover everything. They cover, daily life. Quite a lot of it is how you should conduct yourself, or reporting on local politics and local, events and literature and performances. So let's maybe move to another page. Let's maybe move to page 11. And again, if we need to save any of these pages or documents, we can add them to our personal repository, which is called Lightbox. That's under this. It will appear under this My Archive tab at the top here. All we need to do is create a basic login, and then that's yours for life. Or you can download any of these to PDF using this button at the top here. So let's head back to our search results. And maybe let's keep scrolling. So this one here is called Socialism, Feminism, Suffragism, Terrible Triplets, it seems, by Benjamin Vestal Hubbard. So what you find, especially with the kind of suffrage movement related material, which there is a lot in everyday life, is actually a lot of these anti-suffrage texts were obviously written by men, but were distributed amongst female-led kind of anti-suffrage leagues and groups across big urban centres like New York, Chicago, St. Louis. You can see here some reports as well. So this isn't just periodicals, but it's also reports from suffrage associations, which were kind of obviously pro-suffrage groups. So this is something very important. So this is one issue of Town Topics, which is an extremely rare but very interesting kind of run of weekly periodicals. And this was a weekly periodical published in New York from, if I pull the metadata down, I can actually see. So I think it ran from, 1874 up until about 1915, I think. So quite a long running periodical. We have the full run in this resource. And what Town Topics was, it was really offering social commentary, literature reviews, fiction, but most importantly gossip. And this was written for the upper crust, the top upper class people during this kind of Gilded Age New York, and it was very focused around New York and New Yorkers in quotes. This was about high society and gossip. What we can see here, if we maybe move along to page 16 and 17. So this is actually, so you can see it's actually broken down by issue, and we can browse the various issues as we need to. So this is actually a report on a debate at Carnegie Hall about the suffrage movement. So here we are. You can see, our search results appearing here. So women's suffrage, and this was a very conservative, periodical. So they're very damning actually of the suffragettes and how they kind of compose themselves in their campaigning. It's a very interesting look. And this is from, if we pull this down, so this is January 1914. Again, let's maybe cycle through to next hit. So as you can imagine, suffrage is obviously, a big topic in these kind of social and political periodicals that were being published at the time. And they do take up a lot of column inches. So that's a bit about the everyday life material. Town Topics is a real gem. It's published in full as well. So some really good opportunities there to get into the everyday life resource and really kind of mine for some material, because it's all full text searchable as well, as it's all printed material. This is another one of these periodicals here, which is called Women's Work. So again, very different, this one. This is published in Athens, Georgia. So very different from the kind of, high society, very different from the high society kind of New York publications that we were seeing before in Town Topics. Okay. So lastly, let's take a look at a couple of documents from the popular culture resource. So we're going to fast forward a few years to the 1950s to the 1970s. So this time I'm going to run a new search. Let's run a search for, so I've done this already, so I'm going to run a search for feminism, and then put an asterisk on there. Let's run that search. So what I thought would be interesting to do here, 345 results, that's probably too much. But what we can actually do is flick across to the frequency chart. This is really interesting, so we can see barely any mentions of the word, feminist or feminism. Really until the earliest mentions we have in 1915, and that kind of dies away again. Then not really much, and then it really starts to peak in the 1960s. As the second wave comes in, and we have a lot of these underground press titles and fanzines and counterculture publications that were campaigning for women's liberation, whether that's kind of more spiritual and bodily and the kind of left field hippie magazines, or whether it was political activism, which is really coming through in the kind of underground press titles like the Berkeley Barb and Los Angeles Free Press. So let's maybe move back to our list view. We can maybe see a few of these instances. So one of these kind of very pro-female liberation periodicals was Off Our Backs. So let's take a look at this one. Again, we click through, it's going to take us to the resource. We can see all the instances of our search result appearing. So let's maybe click into this one. So a lot of these kind of pro women's rights periodicals have very short runs. They didn't really run for that long. But what they do is kind of report on activism, obstruction, and actually kind of political, well, movements that were happening around the country. So we can see here something happened in Tallahassee. And we maybe need to move through our hits, so where our search result appears in this document. So maybe head back to our search results and we'll take a look at one more. See another issue of Off Our Backs there. And another one of these is actually Leviathan. This is probably more kind of politically extreme than Off Our Backs, which was more of kind of a reporting publication. Leviathan was with a lot more artists and kind of artistic activism involved in this publication. So maybe click in here. And also the tone is slightly more forthright, I suppose. But if you have students or faculty who are looking at free press titles and kind of the counterculture press and their involvement in not only women's liberation but the fight for civil rights and gay rights as well. These runs of periodicals like Leviathan, like Off Our Backs, are really important, and just like Everyday Life, they're all full text searchable as well. And that is what I wanted to show, really. So just to recap what we covered. So we've been looking at the Americana platform, which is which allows us to kind of cross-search 7 of these American history resources, particularly if we are focusing on a specific area like American women's history. We can use this platform to search across millions of pages all at once and really make use of that full text searchability and really good metadata as well. So today we've been looking at American history, 1493 to 1945, when we were looking at some of that pre-revolutionary letters from Lucy Knox through to kind of the Civil War material, just as Lincoln's about to die, from Clara Barton. Then we had a look at some of the periodicals and gossip newsletters from Everyday Life and Women in America. And then we finished up with some second wave feminism material from popular culture, so that's like underground press titles and kind of counterculture zines. And that is it. Thank you very much for your time today. Hope you enjoyed it. Please feel free to request a free trial of anything through our website, and hopefully see you at the next webinar. Okay, thank you very much. Bye.